She thought it was just another Mother's Day. A morning filled with love, laughter, and maybe a small surprise from her daughter. But what she didn't know was that this Mother's Day would break her heart forever. Because when she opened that card, the one her daughter made herself, and read it out loud in front of everyone, her whole world fell apart. It was a quiet Sunday morning. Grace, 74 years old, gentle hands, silver hair tied in a bun, stood by the kitchen window watching the sunlight spill across the garden. She smiled. Today was Mother's Day, a day she had always cherished, even after years of loneliness. Her daughter, Lena, had called last night. "Mom, we're coming over tomorrow. Everyone's excited. We're bringing a surprise." For Grace, that call meant everything. For months, her home had been silent. No visits, no calls, just memories echoing through the empty rooms. She brewed her favorite tea, laid out her old china cups, chipped but beautiful, and wore the floral dress she had saved for special occasions. She didn't know that today's occasion would change everything. Soon, laughter filled the air. Lena entered with her husband and 2 children. They hugged her, quickly, almost distractedly, and placed a cake on the table. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," Lena said, smiling. Grace's heart fluttered. She hadn't felt this warmth in so long. She poured the tea, her hands trembling with excitement. Then Lena said, "Mom, before we cut the cake, I made you something special." She handed her a pink envelope, a card with hand-drawn roses. Everyone gathered around as Grace opened it. Grace smiled, her eyes wet with love. She began to read. "Roses are red, violets are blue. You're a heavy burden. No one wants you here." For a moment, she thought she misread it. But when she looked up, everyone was laughing. And that was the moment her heart shattered. But this wasn't the first betrayal. It was only the beginning. Grace froze. The laughter around her felt unreal, almost cruel. Her daughter's husband chuckled, whispering something under his breath. Even the children giggled, unaware of the poison inside those words. Grace's lips trembled. "Lena, is this some kind of joke?" she asked softly. Lena rolled her eyes. "Oh, Mom, don't be so sensitive. It's just a funny card. We were only teasing you." But it wasn't funny. Not to her. Behind that laughter, Grace saw something deeper. Irritation. Disgust. The same look she'd seen before. The look people give when they've already decided you're no longer needed. She forced a smile, hiding the sting behind trembling lips. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She placed the card gently on the table, like a wound she didn't want to reopen. A teacup slipped from her fingers and broke. She bent down to clean it, and her eyes filled with tears. Because the scene reminded her of another day, many years ago. A little girl, Lena at age 7, standing by the kitchen door, holding a handmade card that said, "Mom, you're my favorite person in the world." Grace remembered that moment. The way Lena hugged her, kissed her cheek, whispered, "I'll never leave you, Mama." But that promise had faded with time, replaced by distance, replaced by silence. The little girl who once couldn't sleep without her mother's stories, now looked at her like a burden she couldn't wait to get rid of. Dinner that evening was heavy. Not with food, but with tension. Grace barely touched her plate. The laughter continued, shallow, empty. Lena complained about bills. Her husband talked about how expensive it is to take care of someone old. And Grace realized, this wasn't a one-time joke. It was a message. A reminder that she was no longer seen as a mother. No longer a home. Just an inconvenience. She looked at the family she built with her own hands, and quietly wondered, where did I go wrong? But Grace didn't know. The real reason behind that cruel card was yet to be revealed. And when it came out, it would destroy more than just her trust. It would expose a secret buried for decades. Grace quietly stood by the sink, washing the same cup over and over again. Her hands were trembling, but she didn't want anyone to see the tears in her eyes. In the living room, the voices grew softer, whispers mixed with nervous laughter. Then she heard her daughter's voice. "We can't keep doing this, Tom. She can't stay here forever. The house is too big, and she's not getting any better." Her son-in-law replied, "You know, the realtor called again. If we sell this place, it'll cover the loan and maybe even the new car." Grace froze. The cup slipped from her hands and shattered in the sink. In that single moment, she understood everything. The fake smiles. The jokes. The cruel card. It wasn't just thoughtless cruelty. It was a plan. Grace's heart pounded. She leaned against the counter, her breath shaking. "Sell the house," she whispered. This was the house her late husband built with his own hands. Every brick, every corner, every memory, it was their life. And now her own daughter wanted to sell it. Not because they needed to survive, but because she wanted a car. The laughter from the living room echoed again. Carefree, distant, heartless. Grace pressed her hand to her chest. She felt the same pain she'd felt years ago when she buried her husband and promised to protect this home. That night, when everyone had gone to bed, she couldn't sleep. She sat in her room, staring at walls filled with old photographs. Her wedding day. Her daughter's first steps. A family that once existed. Slowly, she reached under her bed and pulled out an old wooden box, carved and faded. Inside were letters, photographs, and her husband's will. She read the words carefully. "The house shall remain in the care of my wife Grace, for as long as she lives." Her hands tightened around the paper. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not just of sorrow, but of strength. Because for the first time in a long while, Grace realized she wasn't as powerless as they believed. And if her daughter wanted a war for this house, she was about to get one. The next morning, Grace woke before the sun. She sat in silence, clutching her husband's will to her chest. Her hands were still shaking, but her eyes had changed. There was no fear left, only truth waiting to be spoken. From the kitchen she heard voices again. Lena laughing softly with Tom. "Mom's getting forgetful," Lena said. "We'll move her to a small home, it's for her own good." Grace closed her eyes. For years she had bitten her tongue, choosing peace over confrontation. But not today. Today she would speak. Grace stepped into the kitchen. "Lena," she said softly, "when did I become a burden to you?" Silence. Lena gave a nervous laugh. "Mom, don't start again. We're trying to make things easier." "Easier for who?" Grace asked. "For you or for me?" She placed the document on the table. Her husband's will. "Your father built this house with his own hands," Grace said. "Every wall has our story, our life. You laughed at me yesterday in my own home. But you forgot something." Her voice trembled, but did not break. "This house isn't yours to sell." Lena's smile slowly faded. She stared down at the will. Tom looked away, saying nothing. Lena's voice hardened. "You think this paper changes anything? You can't live here forever, Mom. You can barely take care of yourself." Grace's voice cracked, but her words were steady. "I took care of you when I had nothing. I worked nights. I went hungry. I gave you everything I had." She paused. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I may be old, Lena, but I'm not invisible." The room fell silent. For the first time, Lena had no answer. Grace turned away, her heart pounding with pain and pride. But she knew this wasn't over. Because the truth she had uncovered wasn't just about the house. There was another secret buried in that box. One her daughter never wanted her to see. That night, Grace sat alone once more. The house was quiet, too quiet. In the distance, she could hear Lena and Tom arguing behind their closed door, their voices sharp and distant. Grace opened the wooden box again, her fingers trembling. Letters tied with a red ribbon. Photographs, yellowed at the edges. But tucked beneath it all was a small envelope she had never seen before. Her name was written in her husband's handwriting, dated just a week before he died. Her heart skipped. She unfolded the letter carefully. "My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But there's something I never told you, something about Lena. When I got sick, I didn't want her to worry. So I took a loan against the house, one she doesn't know about. She found out after my death, and she blamed you. She thought you hid it from her." Grace's breath trembled. "She's angry not at you, Grace, but at the life we couldn't give her. She's carrying pain and she doesn't know how to love through it. Please forgive her, even when she forgets how to love you. With all my heart, John." Grace's tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. She finally understood. The cruelty, the distance, the bitterness. It wasn't born from hatred. but from a wound neither of them ever healed. But understanding didn't make the pain lighter. She looked around the house, the photographs, the walls, the shadow of her husband's memory. She could walk away, leave everything behind, or she could stay and fight for the dignity she still had. Grace rose slowly. Grace waited until everyone was awake. Lena sat at the table scrolling through her phone. Tom sat nearby, half listening. The children were quiet, sensing something was wrong. Grace stepped into the room, her voice soft but steady. "Lena, there's something I need to show you." She placed the letter on the table, gently, carefully. "It's from your father," she said. "He wrote this before he died." Lena frowned. "What is this supposed to be, Mom?" Grace didn't argue. She slid the letter toward her. "Read it." Lena opened it and began to read. As her eyes moved across the page, her expression changed. The sarcasm faded. Her shoulders loosened. Her voice softened. He took the loan," she whispered. Grace nodded. "He wanted to protect you. He didn't want you to worry." "I didn't know either. I found the letter last night." Grace's voice trembled. "All these years, Lena, you hated me for something I never did." Lena swallowed hard. "You could have told me." "I didn't know," Grace said. "I didn't know, my child." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that holds years of hurt inside it. Grace stepped closer. "You were my little girl once. The one who held my hand and told me I was your whole world." Her voice broke. "How did we get here?" Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "I was angry," she whispered. "I thought you lied to me. I thought you cared more about this house than about me." Grace shook her head. "I never chose a house. I chose us. But somewhere along the way, you stopped choosing me." The room fell still. Only the clock ticked, slow and steady. Years of pain sat between them, visible now, real, undeniable. But Grace knew something. Healing doesn't start with love. It starts with truth. Lena sat with the letter in her hands, her eyes fixed on her father's words. For the first time, the anger on her face faded, replaced by something else. "Shame." "Mom," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know how to forgive you." Grace didn't interrupt. She simply listened. After years of silence, all she wanted was to finally hear her daughter's truth. Lena's voice trembled. "After Dad died, I felt like everything was my fault. I blamed you because it was easier than admitting I was scared. I hated coming here because it reminded me of him." She swallowed hard. "And every time you looked at me with love, it made me feel guilty, like I didn't deserve it." Grace slowly stepped closer. She wanted to hold her daughter, like she used to. But the distance between them felt like years of hurt, tall and heavy. Grace's voice was soft. "All I ever wanted was for you to talk to me, Lena. To tell me what hurt you, instead of hurting me back." Lena's tears finally fell. She covered her face. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know how much I was breaking you." Grace lifted her hand, hesitated, then gently rested it on her daughter's shoulder. "You're still my child," she whispered. "Even if you've forgotten how to be one." The room felt different, not healed, not fixed, but real. Lena looked up, red-eyed and trembling. "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked. Grace took a long, slow breath. "Forgiveness isn't just a word," she said. "It's a choice. And I am still learning how to make it." She glanced around the room, at the photographs, the memories, the life built brick by brick. "But I'll try. Because that's what mothers do. They keep trying, even when their hearts are tired." The silence that followed didn't hurt anymore. It rested gently between them, warm, quiet, human. For the first time in years, they were finally breathing the same air again. That evening, Grace and Lena sat together at the kitchen table. The letter had been read, the truth uncovered, and for the first time in years, the silence between them wasn't heavy, it was hopeful. Grace poured 2 cups of tea, her hands steady now. Lena reached across the table, hesitated, then took her mother's hand. Neither spoke at first. Words weren't needed, not tonight. Grace smiled gently. "Do you remember when you were little, and we used to make chocolate chip cookies together? You always ate more than you baked." Lena laughed through her tears. "And you pretended to scold me, but I knew you loved it." For a moment, the years of pain and misunderstanding faded. They shared memories, soft, fragile, warm. Reminders that love had always been there, waiting beneath the hurt. As the sun began to set, Grace looked at Lena and spoke quietly. I've carried so much pain. But the truth always finds its way to the heart. Lena wiped her cheeks. I'm sorry for everything, Mom. I was lost, but I want to find my way back to you. Grace reached out and pulled her daughter into her arms. In that embrace, the years of distance finally loosened, replaced with something stronger and truer than all the pain. Love that had never left. Not once. And for the first time in years, Grace felt at home again.